we thought they were. And we let them off the hook.
Downed inside the 10. Excellent coverage on the punt. Did Austin scoop it up on the return?
Stopper out to the end zone. It is caught for a touchdown.
You are listening to The Review on the OSG Sports Podcasting Network.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Review. It's the Online Sports Guys college football podcast featuring us, the Online Sports Guys. This week, a little bit different. Last week, we tried to do a show, but due to some, shall we say, technical issues, we were unable to complete said episode.
Technical issues.
But this week, we have most of the team here in stride. Brother Wilkie over here in the red, Brother J-Dub in the blue soccer jersey. Me here with
Atlanta United on. I'm representing soccer.
He is with the with the Atlanta United shirt. Currently, the Major League Soccer's hottest team. But that's a whole other story that John can get into.
That's a different kind of football.
That's the other channel on the network, boys.
Yes, you can get in if you like soccer. Make sure you tune into the Soccer Down Here podcast on the OSG Sports Podcasting Network. Free if you've got our app, or if you find us on the interwebs, look us up on Spreaker, Spotify, the iTunes Store, Google Play, the whole 9 yards. But enough of that. Brother John's traveling today, so he is going to join us by phone. If I can find him to put up over his phone logo, I will.
A good picture of him wearing a Florida State jersey.
Oh, all right, fine. All right, you've opened this door. We'll just go ahead and do it just to get it out of the way.
No. That's not the highest priority.
It is for me. Damn it, I'm an alum.
It's not your show. It's our show.
I'm the most mad of all of us.
The man is on fire.
He almost took the bait.
Before we get to some of the lesser teams in college football, we'll start off with
which we qualify as.
It's week number 3. It's the week we kind of sort of started to find out what teams have and what they don't have. And we'll start at the top. Alabama versus Florida. Hell of a game on TV if you got a chance to watch any of it. Guys, did we see a little crack in the armor from Alabama, or is this their once a year, we need to get our act together game?
I mean, I still think Bryce Young is exactly who we think he is. I think that Alabama is playing exactly the game that they should have played. Were they successful on offense yesterday? No. But you got 90-something thousand people in Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. You're crazy Florida fans. Florida playing above their weight class. I think I'm slightly worried about Alabama, but Alabama's still going to get theirs. I think Florida was just playing above their weight class and gave them a hell of a fight yesterday. But I think Alabama's fine.
Yeah, to be honest with you guys, I kind of tuned out of this game when Alabama jumped off to that lead because I was just saying, okay, same tune, different field. But I got to tip my hat to Todd Grantham, the Florida defensive coordinator, because he had a game plan and he stuck to that game plan, even though the Tide had jumped off to a lead. They did a great job to me in shutting down Alabama's run game in the last 3 quarters, which really hampered the effort for the Crimson Tide. And Florida had enough offense and just to make it a game and almost pull off the upset. And but it doesn't shake my confidence at all in Alabama. Look, this is the SEC. You're going to get games like that. It's like the NFL. There's rarely any blowouts when you get into league play, and unless it's painfully obvious. And that's how I see it. A great effort by Florida, a great game plan by Todd Grantham, and I think Dan Mullen did a great job as well. But they just came up short. And those things happen when you go up against a juggernaut like Alabama.
And one thing that Bill Dooley used to always tell me at Wake Forest, win the quarter. I've said it on the show before. Win the quarter. If you win all four quarters, you win the game. Florida won the second, third, and fourth quarter.
Exactly.
So had it not been for that just jump out at Florida by Alabama, I think it was like 21-3 in the first quarter.
Yeah.
You know, Alabama, that would have been, we'd be talking a different story right now. So Florida, they're telling the East, watch out, we're here to stay. And they're looking directly right at Georgia.
I'd be curious to see in the last 10 years that scenario with Alabama, jumping off to a great start, getting a 3-touchdown lead in the first quarter, and then that's when the adjustments are made, and Alabama just has the horses enough to pull out the win. I'd be interested to see how many times that scenario has played during the Saban era.
Well, here, John, what happened was Florida basically ran it down their throat. The Gators ran for over 250 yards, a lot of it in the second half, while holding Alabama to under 100 yards. John, is that the way you kind of beat down Alabama? Because it really looked like Florida just wore them down.
Well, I think what you're going to end up with is folks looking at this film thinking that it might be the way to beat Alabama. But in the post game, you heard Nick Saban talk about mental errors. And I think that, yes, you won the game. Yes, you covered. And this gives Nick Saban fuel to continue to chase after another SEC title and another chance at winning a national championship. If you had won this game in a blowout, what it would have been is everybody sitting there talking up Alabama and, no one's going to stand in their way, points A, B, C, and D. What this does is it gives Nick Saban fuel for fixing what he thinks might be wrong, even though it might be just a little bit. So any opening he has to sit there to try and go, okay, we're not perfect, y'all, to focus on that, I think that will give Alabama something to work toward. I think that this might be the game where the schedule kind of stepped out of line a little bit. And, it's like, all right, maybe no, I think Alabama is still the class of what we're seeing in college football. But what this does is it gives Alabama and their fans something to think about, to come up with this idea of, okay, we're not perfect. We still have to work on things, and they can still sit there and have that as their mentality going forward. Yes, this film will get out, but I think that this will be an adjustment from Alabama going forward.
Another game that featured one of the top-ranked teams that didn't quite put on the performance we were expecting, and it was a game that Wilkie was really looking forward to, and that's Oklahoma-Nebraska.
Yep.
Two traditional rivals, and Nebraska's been struggling, all kinds of off-the-field problems, rumors that their coach, Scott Frost, is not long for the job at the university, and the Huskers put up a good fight. I mean, they ended up losing 23-16 at Oklahoma, but they played well. Not a bad ball game there.
Well, I think the cupcake games after Illinois really helped because that was a much improved Cornhusker team. And they had other offensive weapons that they used against Oklahoma than they had against Illinois. I mean, Martinez didn't do it all against OU. And then, the one thing I kept thinking about when I was watching this game, and I was watching it while I was like one eye watching that game, one eye watching my daughter play volleyball in a tournament at St. Pius all day, was, Spencer Rattler in the big games always seems to do a couple of things that raise your eyebrow.
Yep.
And that kind of tells me that the maturity level just isn't there yet. I think he's got a good grasp of the offense, but he's still a 18, 19-year-old kid who is going to try to do everything he can and makes some mistakes because of that. And once Spencer Rattler tempers that a little bit, then I think that's where you're going to see Oklahoma really take off offensively. I still think OU's got defensive inefficiencies that Alex Grinch is going to have to address. But I do think Nebraska looked better, but again, they're a mediocre Big Ten team. I was excited about it because it's Oklahoma, Nebraska. It's one of my favorite rivalries. It's not what it used to be. So yeah, it was good to see the two Big Reds go at it.
And one of my things, a couple of things that stood out from this game. Obviously, at the beginning of the year, Spencer Rattler was say, one of the 5, pro style ready quarterbacks out of this quarterback draft class. I was wanting to see how Adrian Martinez stood up against Rattler. And I thought Martinez came out as the better quarterback yesterday. Not markedly so. I mean, he did have a pick, but I mean, you just on the numbers, Martinez was the better quarterback. But the second thing that bothered me is watching Eric Gray in the red. Obviously, former Tennessee transfer. It was the best running back in the game yesterday. It was good to see him do well. But I mean, watching this game, it was a lackluster game to me. I wanted to see more out of Rattler. But I just didn't see that level of top, like a first round draft pick play out of Rattler yesterday. So for that respect, I will agree with you on that one.
For me, legitimately, this game, I think the more that the game was more of a mucker, more of a muddy game, and I mean in the sense of it wasn't a track meet, it was just something that was going to be one of those grinders that you would look at, the more I thought that Nebraska had a chance to hang in. But it comes down to those individual efforts. And, when you're looking at a quarterback like Martinez, I still think that Nebraska obviously has a long way to go. But for Oklahoma, I think you're right on, Wilkie, and J-Dub. I think that the notion that Spencer Rattler has some growing up to do and he wants to try to do things that he shouldn't, I think that it won't bode well for Oklahoma as they get later on in the season. You can get away with some things on athletic ability alone early in the year as you're getting through your non-conference schedule and getting ready for conference play. But in big moments, in big games in conference play, what you got away with early in the season, you can't later on in the year. And I think that those kinds of moments that we saw from Spencer Rattler might come up and bite Oklahoma as we get later on in the season.
Can we talk about DJ?
Talked about the 50th anniversary of the game of the century in this thing. Yep. And the best part of the build-up to this game, to me, was Oklahoma produced a look back of that game in 1971, Thanksgiving Day 1971, and brought in Barry Switzer and Tom Osborne to do it. And they both were offensive coordinators at the time, and I think they're both 83, 84 years old now. And just seeing the marked differences between the two personality-wise, Barry Switzer was Barry Switzer, entertaining as hell. Osborne was as vanilla as the ice cream you get at the grocery store. But when the two are together, you can see where that magic in that rivalry was. They got the best players, and they had total respect for each other. This wasn't a bitter rivalry at all. It was just great games, and I always met the national championship in the Big 8 Conference. But for me, as a historian of college football and a lover of it, it was great to see those two old guys reliving a classic game and recalling moments in that game. It was really cool.
And speaking of magic, can we talk about DJ Graham's one-handed catch down towards the end zone? I think it's the best I've ever seen in my entire life.
Oh, what an interception! Oh my gosh, DJ Graham!
That's better than Odell Beckham.
That was a hell of a catch. Speaking of teams that have been question marks early in the season, we all were texting about this last night as the games were going on. What in the world is going on with the Clemson Tigers?
I don't know.
They beat Georgia Tech in a very long rain delay game, 14-8, but Clemson seems to be missing something on offense. I'm not sure exactly what it is. Maybe it's skill position players, although I can't believe I'm saying that, or is it the line? What do you think, guys?
Well, they're obviously misfiring somewhere, and it's hard for me to put a finger on it when you watch it. The best thing I can come up with, for the first time in really 8 years, there's not a franchise quarterback there under center. You don't have the Trevor Lawrence. You don't have a Deshaun Watson, who went on to the NFL.
Taj Boyd.
Both of them. Taj Boyd. Taj was probably an edge or two below that skill-wise, but he was really solid back there and knew Chad Morris's offense. But DJU, was it fool's gold when they played Notre Dame last year? Because he put on that great performance.
Maybe.
I think everybody's expecting that day in and day out. And I don't know. I don't know if it's that, if it's skill players, or just there's something I really can't put a finger on. But the confidence just isn't there this year. And already there's grumblings in the Tiger Nation about what's going on with the Clemson offense. The defense is solid. The defense has no issues at all. And that's going to keep them in a lot of ball games. But you kind of get a feeling as you go down the schedule, There might be a game that, remember the term Clemsoning about 10 years ago. Could that term resurface?
I mean, you think, when's the last time you saw a Clemson quarterback complete fewer than 20 passes in a game, have a yardage per pass of less than 5 yards, and have a QBR of less than 50%? I mean, it's not just, I don't think it's just DJU here. There's something going on in the system that, I don't know what it is. It's just something is missing. And I don't think I can put it all on DJU's shoulders.
No, you can't. I agree. You can't do that. There's something within the mechanism that's misfiring and is not getting the attention that it needs, because they got some decent games coming up in their ACC schedule. So they got to get the ship righted now.
And that for me is going to be, and I think that for Clemson, until DJU and whatever the offensive maladies are, I think what you're going to see is the defense carrying Clemson into games and where the offense is going to just have to manage their way through it. They won't be lighting the world on fire. I think the over is probably not something that you're going to be looking at when it comes to any kind of a Clemson game over the next little while. And until DJU and the offense are comfortable with one another, it's going to be the defense keeping them in games, and it's going to be, probably low 20s to high 20s when you're looking at the output for Clemson. I still think that they're going to win games. It'll be uncomfortable, but I still think that they're going to win the games that we're staring at them and winning.
Yeah, J-Dub, I've got a assignment for you Saturday. Go to Carter Finley Stadium and watch Clemson against NC State. Because God only knows what NC State team is going to show up in that one, but I'm sure it's going to be fired up crowd. But maybe you can witness firsthand what's going on with this Clemson offense, since they're practically going to be in your backyard.
Yeah, that was what I was going to say. I mean, they've got to travel up to Raleigh. That's not an easy game. NC State beat Furman this weekend. I guess a big victory for NC State. But for Clemson having the problems they're having coming into Carter Finley Stadium, that is not an easy place to play right now, because NC State is playing pretty serviceable football. So we'll see how that goes.
John, I got to ask you, while you're making your way back from Macon, Georgia, after calling a soccer match this afternoon, have you gotten to talk to the missus about the Happy Valley experience last night?
Oh, yeah. No, we were in fairly constant contact since the game was as close as it was. Being the ritualistic individual that I am, I was not watching it.
Yep.
So I was being kept abreast of what was going on. And obviously, there are some disappointed / hot Auburn fans, and it has to do with a lot of the play calling that happened in trying to be a little heavy on the cute scale. And yes, I know that Kobe Hudson was a high school quarterback, and I know that a lot of folks were wondering about that particular play call. I was wondering about it in general, but knowing that Kobe Hudson was a QB in high school, I understood the rationale for it. For me, once again, it was turnovers, trying to find a secondary weapon, because you knew that Penn State's defense was going to be keying on Tank Bigsby, who still ended up north of 100 yards on the day. And when you get down to it, Penn State continued to give Auburn a chance to try to stay in the game. And it comes down to fourth down play call, and you're wondering why. And I'll put this sequence to the floor. You've got a fourth down, and you have an opportunity for the possibility of a 2-point conversion that could tie the game and send you into free football. Why are you going to Kobe Hudson, who is lined up against the number one defensive back for Penn State in single coverage, with your X and your Y receiver out on the edge? Why are you going away from Tank Bigsby when all you needed was 6 feet to get it to a 2-point game? I thought that play call on fourth down, as time was running out, and you had that chance, that to me was a big question mark. And instead of run the damn ball, Bobo, you tried to throw some kind of a back shoulder throw, and it was a lot of hand fighting. And I know folks wanted a pass interference call on the Kobe Hudson call, but I thought the hand fighting washed it all out. The play calling late for me from Mike Bobo and the offense, those were the questions for me late for Auburn as they tried to tie the game, guys.
Yeah, and I think a couple of things. I mean, you know, something we've said on the show several times, you got to dance with the one that brung you. And I think at that point in time, you have to feed Bigsby right there. You have to. But I think a couple of the things late, I think there was an interception. There was a targeting call. What is the Kobe
The
McLean?
Jacoby McLean targeting call. You've got to be kidding me there.
Yeah, it was questionable.
So, I mean, I think
I'm there with you guys.
it was just one of those things that was a comedy of errors there at the end that Auburn had put themselves in position to win. And I think this is a good test on the Brian Harsin system. I think, you know, like you said, Bigsby had north of 100. Jarquez Hunter had a good game. But it's like you have to dance with the one that brung you. And the Kobe Hudson call to me, that was a WTF moment for me too.
Yeah.
Somebody
give credit where credit's due to Penn State. I mean, they played a good game. Sean Clifford, 28 for 32, 280, and a couple of touchdowns.
Yeah, I believe we do give credit where credit's due.
Yeah.
But for me, who has no vested interest in this game, I love the fact that you had a Big Ten SEC matchup at a great venue at a whiteout. And I think this is going to bode well for Auburn because after munching on a couple of cupcakes, they expose themselves into this kind of matchup, which I think is going to pay better dividends for them as the year goes on, rather than be a detriment. I'm not worried about the loss at all. I mean, I think that's a wash to me for Auburn. I think they learned some very valuable lessons that's going to bode well for them as they go through the season, especially in the SEC West, to have that kind of test. And they're going to study this film, and they're going to know that Tank Bigsby has got to be the warhorse, and that needs to be pounded in Mike Bobo and Brian Hardison's cranium. And I think it will be. I just think this was. I want to see more matchups like this. Yep. It was everything we thought it was going to be. It reminded me of the game that was put together last year between Coastal and BYU. It had a very same intersectional type of game, and I want to see more of this in college football.
And I hate the phrase, but I think that this is a good loss for Auburn. They learned a lot. They put themselves up against a good team on national television. You know, I think a lot can be learned from this. But like I said, you know, if there was such a thing as a good loss, I think you'd find it here.
Show me a coach that likes a good loss.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Sometimes I hate the phrase, but
guys, here's a game for you that was a pleasant surprise and one of the surprising teams so far early in the season. BYU with a big win over Arizona State, 27-17. They might have something going up there in Utah, and they have looked really, really good so far. We're talking about a potential climb into the top 15 for sure, maybe close to the top 10 here before it's all said and done for BYU.
You don't think the timing is perfect for them to move over to the Big 12?
Yep.
I mean, think about it. That conference is getting a program that has a national reputation and a national following, and now starting to get some players to come to Provo, Utah, and they're starting to perform. And I think this is a program that's on the definite upswing. I think we're getting back to the Lavelle Edwards level at BYU. And now they just got to get those franchise quarterbacks and they're getting them. They're just a different mold than what we're used to. Not the drop back passers, but the guys that are multi-talented. But I was very impressed with BYU. I was impressed with their interior lines on both sides of the ball. And this is where I think Kalani Sitake has it going right, because he knows he's got some 300-pound Samoans there with some speed that can disrupt offenses and can be that brick wall to protect the quarterback and open up holes for the run game. So I think the future is extremely bright for BYU.
And that's the first time I'd actually had seen any tape on Jaron Hall, quarterback for BYU. Pretty serviceable quarterback, you know, but I really like Tyler Allgeier. I mean, as a running back, he was hitting the holes very well last night. I think the future is bright for him as well. But yeah, I do agree on a big stage. BYU stepped up and you actually played above their weight class in a sense, because you beat a higher ranked Arizona State Sun Devil team. So, you know, when it comes down to the polls next week, I bet you money they're going to leapfrog them.
One of the things that concerned me in all of this was how BYU would respond after Holy War. And if there was the discussion of any kind of a letdown, this would be one of those prime opportunities for that. With all the chaos that was going on with Arizona State in the offseason, how would Arizona State, come barreling into this? How would BYU respond after Holy War? We found that early answer. Great marks for Kalani Sitake and what we saw at a BYU film.
And I think they're very mentally tough. I mean, that was very evident to me against Arizona State. I mean, this team is focused. This team has they're looking at going to 12-0 and trying to sneak into a playoff. I mean, that's their mentality. And as an independent, that's all they have. They also know they're going into a pretty competitive football league, even without Texas and Oklahoma. And they may get to play them a few times before they bolt to the SEC. So the timing is perfect for that program to make that move.
And if you look what they've done, they're 3-0 in the season, right? They've scored 24 plus in all 3 games. They've held the last 2 teams who were ranked below 20 points, and they're going into USF this weekend. So I think that I think this is a good time for BYU moving forward. They're playing. Sitake's got them playing really, really, really good football.
October 9th against Boise State in Provo.
They lost yesterday.
Boise State's struggling this year, so that might not be that close of a game.
They looked great in the first half against Oklahoma State, and then just wet the bed.
Fell off. I guess we might as well get to this one. It's where we started the discussion at, and I kind of put it off. But as we kind of wind down here in the first half of the show, I guess I'm going to let John have his 3 to 4 minutes and wax poetic about his thoughts as his Florida State Seminoles take it on the chin yet again.
For my Deacons.
J-Dub's Wake Forest Demon Deacons, 35-14. Wake Forest goes to 3-0. Florida State 0-3. John,
the floor is yours.
Yep, we're waiting on you, sir.
Here's your chance. Rant now or forever hold your peace.
And of course, the perfect timing that he goes into a pocket with no seltzer.
No.
He was prepared.
No. I'm mentally preparing myself for this moment. And my communication device, every single time I start ranting, it mutes me. So I don't know. Maybe Mike Norvell is in charge of my mute button here. I don't know.
Go, John.
Are you done? Are you through? We are, as a football team, we're through. Why is Mike Norvell still employed? I have made this point seemingly ever since Mike Norvell took the job. Why is he still employed? Why were the locks not changed on his door after the loss to Jacksonville State? Why was he not kiffened after the loss this go-around?
Or Bielema.
Or Bielema, yeah. I'll take that too. You're 0-3, and you've really not shown a whole lot other than the fact that you want to start a quarterback controversy when there really shouldn't be one. And it seems like you've lost the team.
That's my point. That's what I saw against Wake Forest. I didn't see an inspired team at all.
Nope.
And I saw a team that practically, I think, has quit on the coach.
Yeah.
I mean, there was just no punch at all. You look at that sideline. I mean, there's a lot of backs turned. I mean, it was really disturbing to see that. And that's what kind of convinced me that, there's something going on here that's a lot more deeper than we kind of realize. I think, John, you realize it. But there is just no – I mean, and probably some of it has to do with Coach Bowden dying. I'm sure that's kind of cast a pall over the program a little bit. But still, I mean, you've got to show some kind of enthusiasm. but they're just not showing anything. And they're just kind of going through the motions. And it's like, okay, let's get the year over with and see who the next staff comes in is.
But the thing that
and go for it, J-Dub.
No,
I'm wound up, so go ahead. It's
I just want to say that, I don't care who you are, you commit 6 turnovers and those crazy penalties in the first half, you're not going to win. I don't care who you are and what league and what division and what level. You commit 6 turnovers, you're not going to win.
See, that's part of it too, J-Dub. You don't do those kind of things when you're in tune with your coaching staff, and I just don't think it's there. And I'm not going to say that they need to make the move. I'm not there yet. I'm almost there.
But have been.
I know you have been, but you have a vested interest. Look, I've gone through 10 years of this. I've gone through John L. Smith, Burt Bielema, and Chad Morris.
Well, I want to bring up something Phil said last night in our text chain. If Florida State got rid of Norvell right now, what is the better option? Does Florida State have an option on staff right now that would be better than Norvell? And if not, then you need to leave Norvell and leave him until the end of the season, until you have a better option in play. Because otherwise, wouldn't it be worse to kick him to the curb and then have somebody else that the team doesn't follow? And it's basically adding insult to injury, and you're just basically shot your whole season in the foot.
What I would have done, and I will reemphasize this from the absolute beginning, I would have given the head coaching job to Odell Higgins because of Odell being a legacy, Odell understanding the program, what he's been doing as a coordinator and as a line coach. He's worked his way up. He's been given the reins in interim bases on a couple of different times. I think he would have been the in-house choice to give him the job after Willie Taggart and even after Jimbo Fisher. I would have given Odell Higgins the head coaching job 4 years ago, and he would be my choice to take over for Mike Norvell. And I don't think that if you were to retract Norvell and bring in Higgins, I don't think that you would have all of the disinterest that you have on the sideline currently. But, Wilkie, to your point that you just made, Florida State is heading in the direction of Arkansas. And how many times would you have ever thought that you would have heard someone say that as a sentence? Because by the time Mike Norvell, well, think about this, J-Dub. By the time Mike Norvell is dismissed and you bring in yet another coach, you're working on year 6 from Jimbo Fisher quitting to Willie Taggart to Mike Norvell to coach number 4 that is in this discussion. And this is a big if you give the patience to that individual to cycle through all of the folks that were brought in from Mike Norvell to the kind of player that Coach 4 wants to bring in, you will have lost a decade of relevance in college football if you're Florida State University. You're well on your way to doing that, and that's when you bring in Coach 4, not if. And that is a sad state of affairs in Tallahassee.
So it sounds like a good jumping off point here to get us into halftime, guys.
It also said that description just also sounded a lot like Tennessee, by the way.
Yeah. You can name several programs that are in that same boat. Guys, why do you say we go to halftime here, take a little bit of a breather? When we come back in the second half of the show, I want to talk about a crazy play in Memphis, Ole Miss game, or Mississippi. Yeah, Memphis, Mississippi State. Ooh. Yeah, Mississippi State. I got my Mississippi confused. A couple other weird games from some of the smaller schools, and we'll take a look ahead at next week's schedule. All that more when we return in about a minute or so for the second half of the review. You're listening to The Review on the OSG Sports Podcasting Network.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinski of Apolinski & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
The online sports guys would love to hear from you. Go to our Twitter page at OSG Sports for a comment, rant, or just whatever's on your mind about college football. Now, back to The Review with the online sports guys.
I mean, watch the official comes in, he throws the marker down, but watch the hands go up as if the play's over with.
Thanks for sticking around, folks. You have made it to the second half of the review. It's the Online Sports Guys College Football Podcast featuring us, the Online Sports Guys. Before we get too deep into the conversation here, I want to remind you that you can find us on social media. Look up at OSG Sports on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. If you're watching us at home, you probably have already found us there. You can look us up on Google Play, the Apple Store, any number of your favorite podcast categories, catchers, hosts, whatever you want to call them, aggregators.
All the above.
All of the above. We are there. Just look up OSG Sports. We will pop right up, and make sure you download the phone app because it's free. Coming back in here in the second half, we talked about some of the top teams here in the first half of the show. The second half of the show, we want to devote to some of the strange things that happened this week. And Wilkie, you had a couple things that really jumped off the page to you. Why don't you give you the floor here for a second?
Yeah, guys, I think we need to start paying attention to Michigan State. I watched that game against Miami, and Kenny Walker, Wake Forest transfer, he put on a show against the Hurricanes. And yeah, the Canes have been a little suspect on defense, but there's still some talent there.
A little.
I just thought the physicality of Michigan State in that game, that's back. And they just have taken the personality of Mel Tucker this year and are going with it. And it's really made their quarterback, Peyton Thorne, a much better quarterback. Now he's got a running game behind him. He's got some decent receivers that can make the catch. I just like the way this Michigan State team is built. And I think we need to pay attention to the Spartans because I think they're going to be a player in the Big Ten this year. And then I want to give some love. You know, last year we gave a lot of love to the Sun Belt, and rightly so. This year, I just don't think they've lived up to expectations this year, with the exception of Coastal Carolina. Sun Belt's had some opportunities to back up what they did last year, just haven't been able to get it done. But the Mountain West right now, they went 2-0 against the Pac-12 yesterday. Fresno with their crazy win over UCLA, I think we're going to get into a little later, and San Diego State defeating Utah in San Diego. Now the Mountain West is 5-4 against the Pac-12. They're older brothers this year.
San Diego State 2-0 themselves, leading the Pac-12 in theory.
There you go. So let's give some props to the Mountain West. They're in the crosshairs of the American right now as they decide whether they're going to expand or add teams to their conference. I think the Mountain West has got some street cred to stay put and say, well, we're a little better right now. And we're kind of, we'd like to keep our West Coast roots because I think we're on par or maybe a little better right now than the Pac-12. You got some large universities there too that, I think the Mountain West right now deserves a lot of praise right now.
Yeah, and the other mountain, the one that didn't come out as a victory last night, Boise State played hard against Oklahoma State. And the Cowboys just came away with a 1-point win. But, Still, Boise State's kind of struggling. But to go toe-to-toe against the Cowboys, got to give them props.
And we talked a little – you mentioned the Fresno State UCLA game. Sorry, I blanked out for half of a second. That was a heck
of a – UCLA.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally. Heck of a game there. Fantastic performance by Jake Haener of Fresno State, 39 for 53, 455 a couple of touchdowns. And if you got to see any of the highlights, guys, he played the last quarter of the game basically banged up with an injury.
Yep.
And was just incredible, making all kinds of great throws. Some huge number for the Bulldogs on offense. Ronnie Rivers ran for 136. Jalen Cropper, 14 catches, 141 yards. That was a nice performance against what we thought was a halfway decent UCLA team.
What we thought, past tense.
Well, I mean, UCLA's got to get better because they got Stanford next at the Farm, and Arizona State's going to be well, they're going to have some smoke in their nostrils after losing to BYU, so that's going to be another tough test. Then you get a layup game at Arizona. By the way, for 3 years I covered the Big Sky and Northern Arizona University, and they got a win over the Wildcats.
Wow.
Last night in Tucson, and the Lumberjacks were winless as well. So hats off to the NAU Lumberjacks for getting that huge program win.
One thing that stood out to me from the UCLA Fresno State game, one of my favorite players up to this point in the season is Michigan transfer running back Zach Charbonnet. And Charbonnet was held to only 19 yards on 6 carries. So, the Bulldogs' interior defense, I mean, the leading rusher was Dorian Thompson Robinson, I think. Isn't it Thompson Robinson? The quarterback for UCLA.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I was really surprised to see Charbonnet have an off game. But, hey, we all have them, right?
Is Kevin Sumlin long for the world at Arizona? 0-3 this season with some really.
He's not the coach there anymore.
John?
Who's the head coach?
It's not Sumlin.
Who took over
Sumlin's not there anymore.
He's not there anymore? When did that happen?
When they went like 5 and 6 or 6 and 7.
They hired Jed Fish.
Yeah. Yes, Jed Fish. I'm trying to think who it was.
Wow, that's a really bad flub on my part.
Wow. Well, so I'll go ahead and say it. The fish is flopping in Arizona. How about that?
Thank you for taking the heat off of me for that really, really bad mess up.
Give him the floor.
What we're here for.
Yeah, I completely forgot that they made him go away, and it doesn't change the fact that they're a bad team. But
no.
And Wilkie, you brought up the Sun Belt. Coastal struggled with Buffalo yesterday. Is that a sign, or is that just one of those games that they almost lost? I mean, Buffalo's got a whole new coaching staff. Leipold took like half the team with him to Kansas. Is that a sign that Grayson McCall is not as strong as they thought he was, or is that just a good game for Buffalo?
I think everybody has their off games, and this was. I mean, they traveled up to Buffalo. Yeah, they went up to New York, and so I think that has a little bit to do with it. But no, I still, and when you get a win like that, that's character building for a club like Coastal.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I don't think I would worry much about Coastal. Now they're going to get in the hardest Sun Belt play now. They're going to be the number one target. So I think this is a good win for Coastal. They maintain their ranking, and along with Cincinnati, this is the Group of 5 team that's going to get the most attention nationally among that group.
And Incarnate Word defeated Texas State yesterday. So another
UIW. That's a signature win for them.
Yes, it is.
There were a couple schools this week where like, who are these teams? Akron. A team headlining the bottom of the barrel in our weekly top dirty dozen in bottom of the barrel column on the online sportsguys.com.
Excellent plug. Nicely done.
Thank you. I had to make up, still having to make up. The Zips actually got a win, but they played a team called Bryant. I have no idea who the heck they are.
Bryant, I think, is I think they are part of the non-scholarship Division One. Yeah, I think they're part of the Pioneer, or they're a 1AA FCS. But yes, that was
they're up in the Northeast.
Yes,
Conference.
Yep, Northeast Conference. Yep.
The NEC. So that means that they're a 1AA school, and good for Akron. You scored more than Zip.
And they're out of Smithfield, Rhode Island. FYI.
There you go.
Before we get into the we get into looking ahead at next week's schedule, I want J-Dub to tell us about a game that he got to see in person this weekend.
Yeah, we need this update.
He got to see the Fighting Kevin Kellys of Presbyterian play in person, the team that tries not to punt the ball. And J-Dub, you said it was one of the most craziest, unique things you've ever seen in your life.
There were people at Barker Lane Stadium at Campbell University that came just specifically to see. There were some trainers from some local schools that said, I want to see this team that doesn't punt and want to see if it's the truth. They didn't. The only punt they had, it was 4th and 22. Presbyterian was on their own 2-yard line, and Ren Heffley got it and did like the little quarterback punt, and it was down at the 24-yard line. So it's like a 22-yard punt. But it was insane. Ren Heffley had 6 interceptions, 2 of which were pick sixes, and 4 fumbles. So 10 turnovers from the Blue Hose, which, by the way, half the team were not wearing blue socks, which I think is a uniform violation.
Wow.
But
you turn them in?
Violation, dress code violation.
But Campbell started their 3rd string. Their starters weren't even in the ball game. Wow. And, had a Will Hatley had like incredible day. He had like 6 touchdown passes to had like 7 different people score touchdowns. It was at 72-0 was the final score. But to see Kevin Kelly, to see his team up close and personal, how they made decisions, what calls they made on 3rd and long, 4th and long, why in the world you wouldn't punt in some of these situations, because maybe in a high school game where field position doesn't matter, you can get away with, not having a 20, 30-yard swing. But in a college game against a Division I Big South opponent, a team like Campbell will make you pay. And I'm watching this game. I went into it going, I want to see what this Ren Heffley kid is all about, because they're averaging like 70 points a game. And it was one of the strangest, most uninspiring games that I've ever seen, in that the team just was doing what the coach told them to do, but it's like they didn't even care. So I'm like, I think even the crowd was like 4th and 30 and you're still going for it. I'm like, why? So, and the crowd stayed around to the end. It was really an insane ball game, but Kevin Kelly needs to figure out what the heck he's doing wrong, or otherwise next thing you know, he's going to be coaching Florida State.
Yeah, there you go. Attaboy, big fella. Get that shot in.
Yeah, it's hard to win football games when you get 10 turnovers, right?
Yeah. Is the expectation level there, or are they just trying to be different to get some headlines?
It didn't see it both. Because right now, like I said, there are people in the stands that literally came to see that circus of an offensive decision-making process. And even the coaching staff, the SID came in, and I was asking questions about pronunciations and stuff. He's like, oh, yeah, and by the way, we don't punt. And got out and walked out of the press box. And I'm like, oh, okay, thanks for the reminder. It's weird coming from the upper folks in the athletic program.
By the way, we don't punt, and the door closes behind you.
Exactly. That was exactly how that went. And I looked at
and I'm out.
And I looked at my marketing director beside me, and she was like, just shrugged her shoulders. She's like, just do what you do. And I was like, okay, I did. So that's why my voice is gone, because lots of touchdown Campbells last night.
Is there a place for gimmicks like that, guys? I mean, is there a place in college football for that, or is it just something, it's just the shiny object of the day?
That's what you see in Pee Wee football. Come on.
That's
where it belongs. There's no place for that in college football.
There's a place for it if it works. After a game like that last night, there's no place for that in college football.
Well,
not major Division I football.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is I think that you're looking at someone who's a D2, and against other Division II programs, you might be in the same ballpark. But, and especially when you play somebody like the University of Fort Lauderdale, which I'm guessing is an NAIA product, and they're a first-year program under Chris Chambers.
True story. I actually saw a story online about them today. The University of Fort Lauderdale is based in a strip mall.
Whoa. Far out.
And
did they practice in the food court?
It's not even a mall. It's a strip. It's just a shopping plaza. They would have to play in the practice in the parking lot.
Do they practice in the parking lot?
I don't know, but apparently it's a school that's just been organized within the last couple of years. and it's almost like, what was that school that played the
Bishop Sycamore?
Bishop Sycamore or something like that?
Indiana.
Bishop Sycamore, yeah.
They're a college that's almost like that.
Like a virtual college that is bits and pieces of a college, and yay.
We
So
want a
my
team.
Well, yeah, well, and then what you do as an NAIA program is how you make your money as an NAIA school is through Pell Grants and loans, and that's how you work on your bottom line. That's why in the NAIA they don't have any scholarships, but what they do is they have a loan structure where they make all of their money that way. So I can understand how the University of Fort Lauderdale would exist in that way. They have to be an NAIA school. But no, back to the original point, I think that against even competition, I think that something like this, it might be cute and kitschy and whatever. But in a situation like Campbell, when you're playing up a level, you get found out pretty quickly and you end up with results like you've had.
I mean, could you look at what Presbyterian's done? 84 points against who is that? St. Andrews, and then it's like 68 points against Fort Lauderdale. And you're playing those kind of teams, you can get away with it. But Campbell, granted, they're a lower tier Big South team, but they're still a Division I Big South team that, Mike Minter is not a stupid guy. And, he knows how to go, defend somebody like that. And we had, like I said, 10 turnovers. That ties an FBS record of amount of turnovers in a game. And this was the largest margin of victory in a Campbell football game since 1910 or something. It was insane. Yeah, but and they had their
leather helmet days.
Yeah, they had their fifth string guys here at the end. So if you say, why are they running up the score? No, they're not. They're just literally running their offense, and if Presbyterian can't stop them, whose fault is that?
That's a Presbyterian problem.
Exactly.
You can't run up the score if you can't stop them. Guys, we want to look ahead to next week's games. Not a ton of great stuff out there on the board, much like this past week. The feature game probably with the most at stake would be Texas A&M traveling into Fayetteville. Or no, they're playing at AT&T Stadium in Arlington.
Yeah, they play in Dallas for that one.
Wow. Texas A&M and Arkansas at Jerry World, a 3:30 CBS Sports kick.
Yeah, and if Arkansas wins, they go 3-0 and in the Southwest Conference, and they'll probably get in the Cotton Bowl bid.
Yep.
That's old school.
Excellent work there, Wilkie. Good work.
I think this is a big test for Arkansas. Is that offense as good as they've shown against Georgia Southern and against Texas, and especially that running game? KJ Jefferson has just been a pleasant surprise at quarterback, although he wasn't a surprise. He's that gifted, big, strong quarterback.
Throws a heck of a pretty deep ball too.
He does, and he was on target most of the afternoon against your Eagles. And the thing about it is Texas A&M. They got quarterback issues right now. They're struggling with their offense. They'll probably have some of that rectified by the time they play Arkansas. But when you get Barry Odom a week to prepare, he puts together some outstanding defensive game plans. I think that's the telltale sign whether Arkansas is going to be successful going up against the Jimbo Fisher offense. And so I'm a little nervous about the game, being a Razorback, but I really think if Arkansas is going to break this long losing streak to Texas A&M, this is their best shot. And especially to do it in Dallas, where they get so many players now, always have, and with Jerry in the stands, they're going to be fired up to have a good showing and keep this momentum going. This has been great, especially for Hog fans who have been like Florida State the last 10 years. This is very cathartic for us Hog fans.
And they're giving TAMU, they're giving them 6 points, and the over-under's 48. I think if Arkansas can figure out a way to stop, Isaiah Spiller, the Hogs come out of this with a victory.
Yep, I agree.
And I think the biggest thing is just watch the Colorado tape. And yes, I know that there was an injury at quarterback, but I think defensively, if you watch the tape with Texas A&M and Colorado from Mile High, that gives you a good idea as to how to go up against Texas A&M's offense.
Yep.
Yep, I think they're going to learn something there. The only other game featuring ranked teams this week is number 12 Notre Dame playing Wisconsin in Chicago at Soldier
Field. Yeah.
Yep.
I like Wisconsin in this one, guys. Notre Dame has not shown me anything.
No.
And they've been very mediocre at best.
Yeah.
And Wisconsin has played some inspired football. And I really like the Badgers in this one.
Yeah, and I really like Ches Malusi as a running back. I think, he's that typical, between the tackles, going to run over you type of Wisconsin, pound it out type of a running back. And I agree with you, Wilkie. I got my money on Wisconsin.
You look at Notre Dame, and I mean, it took a late rescue to go and knock off Toledo, and I can't believe I just said that in a sentence. and then it was another grinder to get the shillelagh in the matchup against Purdue. So yeah, I mean, right now you've got a sputtering Notre Dame team against a stout defense in Wisconsin. I don't see this game getting out of the mid-20s. So it'll be. I'm leaning toward Wisconsin at the very least to cover from whatever the margin is, but I don't think this one gets out of the mid-20s at all.
Wisconsin's getting 6 points, and the over is 46.5.
Oh yeah, that'd be about okay. So the margin's about right. So I'll take the points in that one. 46 would mean 20. Something 26-20ish. Yeah, I mean, my guess is probably 23-20, 24-21, somewhere in there. That total's a good solid total number.
Here's another intriguing Big Ten matchup for you guys. 3-0 Rutgers at Michigan.
Yeesh.
I still like Michigan. Don't discount the fact that they had 9 straight scoring possessions against Western Michigan. I think it was one of the directional Michigan schools they had.
It was it Western or Central? I forget.
I think it was Western.
I think.
I wouldn't discount that. I think Michigan's on a mission this year. They got to beat Michigan State. They got to beat Ohio State this year. What I've seen about Michigan is not bad. Rutgers is I watched a little bit against Delaware yesterday.
I'm sorry.
They've got some nice pieces, but they're just not up there on the Big Ten level yet. I like what Greg Schiano's doing, but
yeah.
They're on the right path.
They're on the right path, but they're not going to beat Michigan.
Well, I disagree with you. My money's on the Fighting Schianos.
Wow.
I don't like Harbaugh's offense. I don't like his scheme. I don't like. Now, granted, Cade McNamara is a serviceable quarterback. I just think that Rutgers, first time 3-0 since 2012, I think it is. They're playing really good football right now, and I think this is a trap game for the Wolverines. And I got my money on the Fighting Schianos.
J-Dub with the green eggs and ham philosophy of Michigan football.
I do not like them, Sam. I am.
Really, there's not a whole lot of other games on here that look to me as games that are must-see TV. John, just so you're aware of it, your Florida State Seminoles host Louisville. Louisville coming off
considering what we saw. But
Yep,
considering what we saw with Louisville taking advantage of a situation late and knocking off UCF, there's energy there at Louisville that you don't see with Florida State. And if Jacksonville State isn't an answer, if Wake Forest on the road isn't an answer, is Louisville the answer, one way or the other? And so, frankly, the answer should have gone, 2 weekends ago. It should have been 10 days or 8 days ago. Should have been the answer to all of this. But how do they respond against Louisville when Wilkie, as you've said, there's no energy? J-Dub, you know what it's like to be on a sideline where, energy can go one way or the other, and you know what it means to a program. So all of these negatives that are showing up right now in Tallahassee, how do they respond against a team that they should beat in Louisville, who's coming off of a high in a last-second win?
Yeah, one of the years I was at Wake Forest, it was 2-10. Absolutely understand how that crushing pressure and the chit-chat of everybody saying how you suck as a football team, how it's pervasive and really kind of sprinkles out into the team. So absolutely, energy can go both ways, and it can really be oppressive to try to fight through.
All right, in the Lone Star State, SMU and TCU are playing for the Iron Skillet. That's always a fun game to watch.
Did they get to hit the loser over the head with it? Is that how that works?
they scramble some eggs in it. Obviously, we mentioned Clemson at NC State. That's going to be. Well, let's see what kind of offense we're going to see out of Clemson in that game. Carter Finley, when it's rocking, can be, and it's a 3:30 kickoff.
And I
when
will
it's
be
rocking, it can be a tough place.
And I've already emailed you. I will be at that game on Saturday.
All right, you're not going to be at Duke in Kansas.
Are you kidding me? No, I'm saying as far away from that game as possible.
Hey, I'm just, it's you're where you're going to
Soon
school
to be
right
alma
now.
mater,
So,
yeah. But no, I know better than that. No.
Hey,
Plus Wallace Wade's a bad place to see a football game anyway.
yes, it
So that's just
is. Yes, it
Hey, guys,
is.
before we wrap
And
up,
Tennessee, Florida are playing next week. We haven't even talked about that, and that used to be appointment television.
And another Big 12 game, ranked K-State traveling to Oklahoma State. I think that's going to be a good game and a trap game for the Wildcats because I think Oklahoma State will beat them.
Okay, guys, really quick because we got to kind of wrap things up here on the show. 2 quick plays, 2 crazy plays that kind of signified the week in college football. I don't know if you got a chance to see it. Memphis and Mississippi State.
Did Austin scoop it up on the return? Take it all the way the other way.
The punt that was downed but returned for a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
How does that happen?
Machine shake. Yeah.
What was that, J-Dub? I didn't get you the first time. That's what I thought you said.
Well, what I saw was the back judge waving his hands to stop the clock, which kills the ball.
Should.
And then afterwards, when that player ran for Memphis, picked up the ball and ran with it, and everybody just kind of stood there with their hands in their pockets, and nothing was happening. So
The SEC was forced to apologize because not only did they miss the fact that 2 Mississippi State players touched the ball before the Memphis player picked it up, they also missed that Mississippi State had 2 guys wearing the same number on the punt team.
Yes, that's another issue that needs to be addressed.
See, that's a correctable error that should have taken everything back, but they didn't even look at that.
It's just insane because it ended up costing Mississippi State the game.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Any decision, and this is coming from someone who is, I'm a college softball umpire, so I understand when it comes to officiating. Any call that puts a game on the line for better or for worse should be reviewed as high as freaking New York if need be, and corrected on the field. None of this, well, it was not overwhelming evidence. No, get it right. I don't care what you have to do. Get it right. That was not an example of getting it right, and it screwed them. And I would be pissed if I was a donor, if I was a player, if I was a coach. That's just bad football, and that can't be allowed to happen.
How could you miss the kid touching the ball trying to down it?
I've watched that play like 100 times, and people are looking right at it. And I don't know. They put out a little statement yesterday that was a bunch of BS and baloney. I'm like, no, you missed it. You suck at life. Stop and go ahead and stop quitting your day job. And I really think that they should go back and find a way to fix it instead of an I'm sorry. Because I'm sorry, that's like something that Mike Norvell tells his players. I'm sorry. Does it fix anything? No. So we shouldn't try to do this again. That's just a crazy way to get away from that.
Throw to the end zone, into the end zone, knocked around and caught. It is caught.
Slap on
One last play to wrap up the show. The Hail Mary, SMU versus Louisiana Tech. At the buzzer, Tanner Mordecai, 33 yards to Reggie Roberson Jr., who catches
the
rebound.
Off the doink.
Walk-off touchdown. SMU wins 39-37. Crazy play.
Off the doink, too. Pony up, brother.
That's why we played the game.
The Coeducational Institute of Higher Learning from Dallas, Texas, SMU. Sometimes you get moments like this, and that's what makes college football weekends fantastic, and that's why we get to talk about it every single week. You get the wildness that happens. Great win for SMU. And sometimes you just got to be lucky. Better than good, brother.
Yep.
Indeed. Guys, what do you say we put a wrap on things here? We've gone on for over an hour. Thanks for sticking around, folks. We appreciate you listening in. We talked a lot of stuff. We covered a lot of ground, a lot of good games this week. Hopefully some decent games next week. College football being college football, we always love it. We appreciate every last one of you. John, stay safe driving the rest of the way home.
Oh, I parked. I'm good.
For Brother Wilkie, Brother J-Dub, And for Brother John, I am Brother Phil. We are the Online Sports Guys. Thanks for sticking around, everybody. Have a great week. We will hopefully talk to you again next week. Bye.
Rock chalk.
Huh?